All right. Welcome back, everybody. I hope you had a restful break. I hope everybody here enjoys our offerings. So I am excited to come back with another thrilling guest. Thank you, Manuel Haug, for coming, for speaking about your experiences as VP Product at Celonis. Amazing company. I'm sure you've heard of Celonis. Please, I look forward to your experience.
Thanks. Yeah, excited to be here and to talk a little bit about what we are doing at Celonis, what process mining has to do with AI, how these things connect. So I'm leading the product team at Celonis. Joined Celonis back in the days as the first product manager. Had the luck to experience our growth. And what we are doing at Celonis is when we started back in 2011, we actually took a technology that's called process mining, which was primarily in academia, and started to build a technology company around it. And ultimately, it's all about helping customers to understand how their business processes run and how to improve them. And we are lucky enough that this has actually turned into a company that's one of the fastest growing enterprise software companies in the world at the moment. We are having more than 1,300 customers and see tremendous momentum in the market on it. Before I go into what is actually Celonis doing itself, I want to set it a little bit in context. What is actually driving the demand for a solution like Celonis, and also for solutions to what we have heard from all the other speakers today. If you look at how businesses had to deal with change and with new technology, traditionally, there have already been technology revolutions, like the steam engine, printing machines, also the internet. But the difference today is the speed and how they come. So today, we have actually many of these, and all of them are coming in parallel. You can, of course, we are all here because of that. Artificial intelligence is one of them. Robotics, very related. Biotechnology, also one of the big trends that's just transforming how companies need to react in the market. And why is that so important for customers? Ultimately, they are some of the largest organizations and some of the largest companies in the world. And these companies are increasingly under pressure to deliver more with less resources, to actually stay competitive and stay innovative and stay ahead of their competition in the market. And what we built with Celonis and what we believe we can provide is a solution that allows you to actually run your business more efficiently. So we believe that we can provide a platform that helps you to run your company more efficiently. And that leads me to explain a little bit what is actually the problem space that we are operating in. If you think about a company, and that's now starting very correct, a company is always a collection of business processes. So it starts with order management. When somebody buys something from you, it can be the production process. But ultimately, that makes and shapes how a company is running, if it's running efficiently, or if it's running inefficiently, and if it stays on the market, or if it dies out. And that's, as I said, a little abstract. So let's try to make it a little bit concrete. What I want to make an example of is a sales process. It can be you buying something at an online store. So Amazon is selling you something, or a supplier is selling something to an OEM, an automotive OEM. So what you do is you sold a good. So you created a sales order at the vendor. And in our example, you have bought 4 items, so 4 products at the vendor. These 4 products, of these, 1 is in stock and 3 need to be produced. That means we have 3 production orders in the company, and they need to build or produce the good in the end. Because we want to ship the material as fast as possible, we have 2 shipments. The good in stock, we ship immediately. The 3 ones that get produced, they are shipped at a later point in time. And at the end, you actually invoice your customer. So you want to get paid, so you send an invoice. These things are in the end all business processes. It's the order management, so the sales order process, how you sell something, how you manage that. It's the production process, how you produce the goods that are not in stock, and ultimately it's also the invoicing process. You collect your cash, you collect the money from your customers. And what I just explained is pretty simple, pretty straightforward. You wonder, why the hell do we need a technology to solve all that? Well, the problem with that is usually a business process is relatively straightforward when you design it. When you start, draw it on a board. When you set up the company, this is how we want to run. When you then, after a couple of months, a couple of years, talk with the business departments, they will draw something like this. Yes, we know we are not always running after plan, but there are some deviations on how our business is actually executed. The problem is that this is only scratching the surface. When we look at what our customers are doing in reality, the picture is actually more like this. Processes are completely chaos, and it's not completely chaos, but there are just over time so many variations, so many deviations from how it was planned originally, that it's basically impossible for a human to still understand that and to make sense out of that. And that's essentially where Celonis actually comes in. What our system is giving you transparency over this. It's giving you transparency over where do you have deviations and how your company is running, where are inefficiencies in these processes, and we help you to actually make use out of that. And the platform ultimately, and like every software company, we have a layer cake. So what our software is doing, our software integrates with the systems that already run and operate the company. So that's the digital layer of ServiceNow, SAP, and all these big systems that actually are in an enterprise ecosystem. What we do is we connect to these and we collect the digital traces of these business processes, and we build up a unified model, a unified data model of all the business processes of a company. And then we have various ways of how we can distribute that information. So we have guided user journeys to pre-built apps for certain business functions. For example, for the accounting team, where the accounting manager can set certain targets and the accounting clerks get a prioritized list of invoices and how to work through them. We have what we call Celonis Studio, a low-code environment to build your own solutions, where you can build your own apps, where you can build automations, where you can build your own dashboards. You can imagine that like a traditional dashboarding experience where you just build your own solutions based on the data asset that we provide. And then last but not least, we also provide a developer experience where we have APIs, where we have SDKs, and also an integrated machine learning environment where you can build your own solution and extend what Celonis is providing out of the box with the platform. And yeah, I've talked now quite a while without talking about machine learning and AI. I will come to that. So where do we as a platform use that and make use out of technologies? And one of the elements is when you bring data into Celonis. So what we do is we enrich and we annotate the data. So that means you load an invoice to Celonis. Things that we are doing is we are going through them, we are labeling the duplicates. Very simple, one of the simplest use cases. Other things is we add annotations like when should you expect a payment from your customer, like a prediction on when the payments come in. So we enrich the data set that comes into Celonis. The second element is automated insights, so outlier detections on top of these data sets. So for example, what is not normal in the processes, what is not normal in the data that you have loaded to Celonis. Or also doing what-if analysis, so simulations. What would be when I change a part of my process? What's the impact downstream? What's the impact upstream? So automated insights that we can create with our platform. And then what I mentioned earlier, we have an integrated development environment where you can build your own models and you can wire them up with Celonis. And that's also a case study or an example that I want to talk about. So that's I picked that one, even though I don't know it that well, because also we have a couple of other financial institutions on the speaker list. This is about how a relatively big financial institution created a risk profiling use case on top of Celonis. And what they did is essentially, how do we react on events that happen in the environment? So for example, an earthquake, something external, but also how do we react on events that are internal in our company? For example, a person leaving in a certain department. For example, one of my IT systems is down. And what they created is actually a classifying model using the Celonis data model as an input. And what they didn't have before is actually the structured data set, so structured process data as an input. And they use that then to create signals for their compliance teams. And these compliance teams use that to actually act and increase the compliance of their assets that they are managing. And what we see is actually pretty impressive. This is I believe it was running for a year. They have classified 2,700 of these risky events and have saved more than $30 million by doing this. And how does it work in the end? So it's, like I said, it's one of the kind of like examples where Celonis is the development environment to actually build the machine learning use case. So what we provide is ultimately you connect the system of the financial institution to Celonis. You create a unified data set that's actually cleaned up, and it actually provides you access to how's the business running. That is on top of that, they have deployed a risk profiling model, and that's actually running in Celonis and continuously scanning the process data. And then the last element is actually they also distribute the results inside of Celonis. So they have operational dashboards that they give to their compliance teams, and they have actually an automation that actually sends out signals, emails, and also even blocks some of the transactions in the systems through Celonis. So kind of like it's kind of like what we provide and what we solve is that is the access to data, where you can actually run your machine learning model, and then how you actually also distribute ultimately the results to the end users. And yeah, last but not least, I mean, I've talked about machine learning. I have not talked about LLMs yet. So why am I even here? So that's why I also want to touch a little bit on that. So I mean, the starting point is, I think, not very controversial. Everybody who's on the call or everybody who's here and talking about knows that LLMs have made like a real step change in the technology in the last months, in the last year. And I think what you can say without any question is it will also fundamentally change how people will interact with technology and with software. So also what they expect from a platform like Celonis, from any actually software solution out there in the market. What one aspect is that we touched a little bit on in the other talks as well, and what for us is actually very center stage is ultimately both of these points are about trust. So in an enterprise environment, how can you create a system that an enterprise or a business can trust? Like the impact that we see or the transactions and the things that we influence are oftentimes millions of dollars. And while as a consumer, you might not care so much if ChatGPT gives you a wrong answer, if you depend on it in your process execution in a business, you care a lot. Even in kind of like standard big data technologies, if you're wrong in what numbers you're showing your customer, I can tell you from experience, they care a lot. And that's I think one of the big challenges, but also one of the big opportunities for technologies like LLMs and also a platform like Celonis and how to integrate with them. And I mean, the parts are, for example, and a colleague of mine said that actually very well lately, and it's about the first point, the reliability. These LLMs, on the one hand, they are most likely the smartest thing we have ever seen, but at the same time, they're also incredibly stupid. So, and what is meant by that is, like you can give it a very simple arithmetic problem, and it will give you very confidently a wrong answer. And you don't know if it's wrong or not, and that can lead to quite a lot of problems. But of course, there are solutions to that, right? You can ask it to solve the problem with Wolfram calculator, and it will provide you a correct solution potentially. And I think the solution to that, or what we see, what we work on, what many of the people in the market work on, is actually two very straightforward things. The first one is plugins, and what that means is creating a wrapper around a data set like Celonis provides it, and allow that to interact with an LLM. So, for example, imagine it like that. You have a ChatGPT-like chat interface for the company that can access information from a Celonis unified data model with all the process information available to it. But the way you interact with it is you talk to a bot. Or another example could be, think about the co-pilots in Excel and having a plugin of that thing to the process data provided in Celonis. So you can actually generate the Excel files with the co-pilot with information, feed it from a system like Celonis and a unified data set. So that's the plugin word. How can we actually connect these two words? And the second big thing that we see and that our teams are working on is traditional co-pilots. Celonis, like an Excel, like a PowerPoint, today is actually built by power users. So power users go into our software, they build dashboards, they build apps, they build automations. That's all repetitive work. It's all work where actually we can benefit hugely from these co-pilots that generate the configurations, that generate the apps, where you tell the system, I want to have a dashboard for my cash discounts and the operational dashboard, but also potential automation is created for you. So that's the things I brought, and happy for questions, and thanks for your attention.
All right. Thank you very much, Manuel. Thank you for coming. Thank you for talking about Celonis, talking about your experience, especially for someone who is so deeply integrated into Celonis process. Now, does anybody have questions about him, his work, or the company? Yes, Michael.
So, as you are one of the few or the only decacorn, I think, in Germany at the moment, so what's the plan for the next 10 years?
I don't know what the next level is actually, but so 20 corn, I don't know. But I think that the plan is essentially like our vision is already today that we want to help companies to run more efficiently, and we do that, but we scratch the surface. That's very key as well, right? Kind of like we have 1,300 companies. Ultimately, the target market is something like 20,000, so that's a lot more. And I believe, like also from when you look at what we are doing, when we improve how a company runs, it's also scratching the surface, right? We are often kind of like helping people in processes like accounting, like order management, like procurement, but Celonifying or optimizing an entire company is actually the next step. Like the entire how does a company run, and building like a system that helps you to overcome also these like fragile systems that they have. I think that's the next step.
Okay, thank you.
Well, thank you for your questions. Thank you for answering them so openly.